I paint myself because I am often alone and because I am the subject I know best. Frida Kahlo. I set out to take a self-portrait. Obviously, myself, my camera, and some lights. But what happened next caught me off guard. And honestly, I'm still trying to process it. But before I show you that photo, let's talk about what it really means to turn the camera on yourself. What is a self-portrait? Is it just a photo of your face? Or could it be something deeper? A timestamp, a mirror, a confession? That's what I want to explore today. I haven't felt like myself lately. Actually, I spent the top of the year in the hospital. And ever since then, I've been trying to figure out how to feel whole again. And at that time, I figured a self-portrait would be a good way to explore this. But I'll get to that in a bit. A few years ago, I picked up a book of self-portraits. Vivian Maier is one of those photographers that really made me take my work more seriously. And in this book, Elizabeth Avedon wrote that a self-portrait can be a unique confession. And I don't know why, but that line really stayed with me. Because sometimes when you step in front of your own lens, you start to pose, you know? But what's really happening, you're putting up a wall. You're putting up the version that you want to show the world. What I call the pseudo self. It's the curated, presentable version. It's the this is me, but not so much version. But for me personally, once I dropped that facade and approached the process more genuinely, the practice turned into something really helpful. And then you start asking yourself some deeper questions. For example, am I living to my full potential? It becomes a photograph that's intended more for you rather than the public. Because photos like these, they're everywhere. They're ubiquitous. So many of them feel like throwaways, snapshots with not much thought or substance. But behind all of this, still, I think there's this urge, this ancient one from cave paintings to modern snaps, where we want to be seen. Yet, I would argue that the person that we truly want to see us is ourselves. And that's why I believe that most people could benefit from capturing themselves each year. By the way, side quest. I'm trying to find some mushroom coffee, and I have a Whole Foods, a Sprouts, and a Mom's Organic near me. So let's see who comes through. I retain all good hope. Vincent van Gogh. So we've made it to Mom's Organic Market. I've never been here before. But anyhow, for my self-portrait, I was on the M11 with the 75 connected to the Leica Photos app. And props to Leica for making that connection effortless. Taking photos of yourself is awkward enough, like hearing your voice played back to you for the first time. And on the first attempt, you may need to take a dozen shots to find something that you like. And depending on how you feel that day, you may hate every single one of them and wonder why you even started. But that's not the point. The point of this isn't perfection. The point of this is connection back to you. And that's the part that kind of caught me off guard while doing this. This whole video is hindsight, right? And I'm sharing this journey with you, but it took time. and honestly, some discomfort. I nearly abandoned the entire idea. I just sat there staring at the lens, saying to myself, why the hell am I doing this? Because of social media, self-portraits and these types of pictures carry a bad rep. And they're often seen as vain or self-centered. But I started to see it as a conduit for therapy and self-healing. For example, Van Gogh, in his portraits, never presented himself as a broken or ill man, even at his lowest point. Instead, he believed his self-portraits were a path to recovery, confidently writing to his brother Theo, "I retain all good hope." And that's when the idea for this video really began. So let's go see if we can find this mushroom coffee. No luck. All right, second try. We're at a different store now. Photography is what I teach, and it's what I live and breathe. My camera is usually turned outwards, outside of the fun mirror shots, of course. But turning the camera on myself with intention, it's different. And it made me think about the artists that came before. Why did Rembrandt paint over 90 self-portraits? In the early ones, he looks bold, full of confidence. But later, they change. Frida Kahlo painted herself in pain, literal physical pain, and emotional scars. Every painting was a form of survival for her. Sherman becomes someone else with every image, a character, a story, a mask. And I couldn't help but wonder, did they go through the same discoveries, facing their own doubts or healing some internal part of themselves? Were they like me, trying to work through their own questions by making themselves the subject? Maybe that's the point that it always has been, to ask ourselves the hardest questions. Let's go check if we have any luck in this store. So, no luck here today. I'm gonna have to go to another store, but today there's a new twist on how we tell our stories, and that's AI, right? Because AI can now generate a dozen portraits of me in seconds, different moods, outfits, even simulate dynamic lighting, versions of me that never existed. And I'll admit that some of them look great, but they didn't cost me anything, right? There was no time invested. There was no emotion. There was no risk. And AI can simulate my face, but it can't simulate the moment that I press the shutter, the hesitation, the doubt, the silence. And look, I'm not bashing AI. I think AI is a great tool, but for the purpose of this exercise, it can't replicate the feeling of facing yourself. The moment that we stop making things just because AI can do it faster, we lose something deeply human. Maybe I'm just going too deep. I don't know. But on to the next store on our mushroom quest. Much like Isaac Asimov's short story, The Last Question, in it, humanity spans galaxies, builds supercomputers, chases immortality, but we're still haunted by the end, asking the question, how do we stop everything from fading away? So this is my last store. We are at a precipice, a threshold of sorts, because things are about to change drastically. And that's why I started to look at self-portraits differently. Not a selfie, but the ones that take effort, like I mentioned earlier in the video. Because you may not see it in the moment, but when you look back, a story comes to light that even you weren't expecting. I believe that the ingredient that makes the difference here is time. For example, my 28mm unlocked zine came from a full year of shooting with just one lens, right? One perspective and a lot of questions. So if you, like me, are feeling stuck, creatively flat, or unsure of your direction, an intentional self-portrait might be the thing you never knew you needed. And it might just unlock something within you. I looked everywhere.
Okay,
I even looked online.
I've definitely seen that. I know we have it. Okay, this is the coffee section, but it might actually be in a different spot now that I'm thinking about it.
Actually, I think that's it.
Yeah, that does.
All right, that's everything. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, glad to help.
Appreciate you. Hi, mushroom coffee secured. Took us all day. Was it worth it? We will find out. I don't think I've introduced you to my dog, Cuddy Boy. He's the best. And yes, small wins do matter. Like finally finding this coffee replacement that I've been hunting for all day. Due to the health scare that I mentioned at the top of the video, I've been trying to find ways to do better, right? I'm leaning towards foods and drinks that promote energy, focus without the jitters, so that I can maintain my full-time job and still create videos for you guys. If you're curious, Mudwater was kind enough to offer you guys a special offer of 20% off your first purchase if you're interested. The link is down in the description, and if you use that link, I get a small kickback. You know how these things work. But anyway, here's the photo. I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't this. There's something tired in my eyes, maybe a little lost. And yet, I'm glad that I created it because it's not all the time and everyone that takes the time to kind of process what's going on inside. Take Sky King, Richard Russell. You may have heard of him. He stole a plane a few years back. And not out of like malice, but pain. His voice over the radio, it wasn't angry. It was thoughtful. But you can hear a man unraveling in real time. Kind, funny even, but lost. And I think about him more than I would like to admit. But what if he had a practice, a ritual, a way to see himself before that fateful day? Now, I'm not saying that taking a self-portrait is the end-all be-all, but it's a start, maybe to seek help. It's the ritual that I'm sharing with you because I got a lot out of the process. Setting up the tripod, thinking about the lights, before even capturing my first frame. The secret sauce, the mental elixir, if you will, it was in the doing, because it's in the act of creating that I found myself again. Much like the kata in karate. Have you tried this? When was the last time you created an intentional self-portrait? Or maybe you tried using AI to generate one. If so, how did that go? Let me know in the comments. We're in a world now where the perfect image is just a prompt away. But I argue that maybe the flawed, quiet, human-made self-portrait will be the one that resonates true. Let's keep creating. And every once in a while, turn the camera on yourself, because you might be surprised by what you find. Until my next one, take care.
Does everyone have to do it? It's a personal choice, but I definitely think it's an interesting thing to do because it puts you in front of the camera, and then you start really understanding and having also empathy for the people that you photograph as well. But then also, you know, why not turn the camera around on you and you know, it's just like, I don't know, poetry or things like that. They all come from like us, right? From within us. So with photography, we can do the same thing as well. And I think it's a beautiful practice. Not everyone has to do it, but I definitely think there's some there.